A little something here to ponder. 99% of those born between 1930 and 1946 worldwide are now dead. If you were born in this time span, you are one of the rare surviving 1% of this special group. Their ages range between 77 and 93 years old, a historical 16-year age span. You are in the smallest group of children born since the early 1900s. You are the last generation, climbing out of the Depression, who can remember the winds of war and the impact of a world at war that rattled the structure of daily lives for years. You are the last to remember ration books for everything from gas to sugar to shoes to stoves. You saved tin foil and poured fried meat fat into tin cans. You can remember milk being delivered to your house early in the morning and placed on the porch. Discipline was enforced by parents, grandparents, and teachers. You are the last generation who spent childhood without television. Instead, you imagined what you heard on the radio. With no TV, you spent your childhood playing outside. There was no city playground for kids. The lack of television in your early years meant that you had little real understanding of what the world was like. We got black and white TV in the late 40s that had 3 stations and no remote but a tuning knob. Telephones were one to a house, often shared, party lines, and hung on the wall in the kitchen. No cares about privacy. Slide rules were used for calculations, as there were no computers or calculators. You walked to school. The radio network expanded from 3 stations to thousands. Your parents were suddenly free from the confines of the Depression and the war, and they threw themselves into working hard to make a living for their families. You weren't neglected, but thankfully you weren't today's all-consuming family focus of lawnmower parents. They were glad you played by yourselves, as they were busy discovering the post-war world. You entered a world of overflowing plenty and opportunity, a world where you were welcomed, enjoyed yourselves. You felt secure in your future, although the depression and poverty remained deeply ingrained. Polio was silent crippler. Everyone knew someone who had it. You came of age in the 50s and 60s. WW2 was over, and the Cold War, terrorism, global warming, and perpetual economic insecurity had yet to haunt life. Only your generation can remember a time after WW2 when our world was secure and full of bright promise and plenty. You grew up at the best possible time, a time when the world was getting better. More than 99% of you are retired now, and you should feel privileged to have lived in the best of times. If you have already reached the age of 77 years old, you have outlived 99% of all the other people in the world who were born in this special 16-year time span. You are a 1%er.